Ladies and gentlemen, just put your hands together for a treasure of this city and Highland Park, Coco! I was 4. She touched me. She was a friend, family member. She introduced my 4-year-old body to feelings and sensations. A part of me knew it was wrong, but a part of me fought with this feeling and this sensation. The other part of me fought with, this is somebody that we all love. And I love her too, so I can't say anything. Because you learn to love when you're young. 5 years old, my father, I loved my father. They said he had a drinking problem. That's what they said. He didn't have that much of a drinking problem. He worked at the tank arsenal, had served in the military, but he drank. And I always wanted to be in his place and in his space and in his presence. And he and my mother would argue, you don't need to be driving, you've been drinking. And I remember being 5 and he was laying on the floor and I thought he had just got tired. So I'm talking to him, and what went from something I could understand became very twisted. And I thought it was a game. His mouth slowly twisted to the side. The right side of his body became board-like and rigid. And I laid next to him because I'm like, oh, this is a game. And I kept shaking him. Dad, Dad. And his mouth was twisted. And I was a smart 5-year-old and I knew the numbers to call. And my mother was a nurse and I went to the phone and I called. And I remember my mother showing up and she had this starch white uniform on with a nurse's cap and the ambulance. And they put him on the stretcher. And I remember walking down the steps behind the stretcher and I could hear my mother tell the girl across the street, watch her till I get back. And I remember standing in the middle of my block as the ambulance drove off with the red light swirling, thinking, this man that I love so much, is he coming back? And when he comes back, who will he be? At 5, I play and do things and get a little older, and I'm in elementary school. And I was always a big girl and taller than everybody else, and I wore braces, and my left eye had this little cock on it, you know. And you know, when you grow up and you look a little different, everybody in your crew is different. So I had that crew. I had Ronald. Ronald was a blonde, curly-haired white boy who wore a deep part in his head. And one of his legs was shorter than the other one, and he had a limp. Now, it wasn't your traditional limp. No, it wasn't that. It was a limp with a twist. That was Ronald. Then we had Bambi. They used to call Bambi Pee-Pee Girl. And Bambi would come to school and the teacher would take her in the coat room and put her on some new pants and some different underwear, and Bambi come out smiling with a smile on her face. She came to school. This was my crew. Remind you, I started wearing bras, real bras, in the 3rd grade. I don't mean the cute ones, I mean the safety bras. So I got Ronald, I got Bambi, I had a girlfriend named Vonnie. Now, Vonnie's family's issue were the light skin, dark skin thing. She was the darkest one in her family. And when the kids would find it out, they would tease her about it. And Vonnie never fought back. I grew up fighting. I was a tomboy. And I don't mean this fight, I mean this fight. We didn't do that on my block. Oh, but baby, Fred Smith came. Oh, my God. Fred was a black. No, he wasn't black, he was black. Fred was black. He was from Alabama, wore jeans, cowboy boots. He had a thick southern drawl like he had 2 tongues in his mouth. I was in love with Fred. Fred had a pocket chain with a wallet attached to it. And he had a scar on his forehead. There was something about that scar that made me feel some type of way. And although we were in elementary school, Fred smoked cigarettes, Newports. And I would find myself strategically positioning myself behind something to watch Fred because he was my love. And Fred played baseball in cowboy boots. And he would sit and hit the pack of cigarettes in the palm of his hand and take one out. He carried matches. Old school matches in the box. The ones you light with your fingernail. I love Fred. Sometimes I would look at Fred and it took me back to that uncomfortable 4-year-old feeling that I felt. But I loved Fred. I would sit in the classroom and just watch Fred and his chain and his cowboy boots and his jeans with a cuff in them. And I was like, oh, I love Fred. My life was, I guess it was regular. I don't know. I knew on Friday nights, it was carp night at my house. So I knew I had to rush home from school, clean up the house, because it was going down. The cards, the dominoes, everybody that was grown showed up with some kids, and I never knew their name. I'm like, who are these kids? And my mom have her long eyelashes on. Oh, way longer than these that I got on. She had the Mr. Snuffleupagus eyelashes on. But I loved my mama. She had on red lipstick, red fingernail polish, and had them toenails painted red. And I always kept a stepdaddy. Because my mother loved like that. and they would play cards. And I made my money. I was a hustler. So I would make my money by emptying the ashtrays and putting the beer cans in the sink, rinsing them out, and bringing new beer cans. But I would get the ashtray, and I would go in the kitchen. But by this time, my aunt, who had got drunk, had taken her wig off. So as big as I was able to bend down and scoop the wig and slide in the kitchen with the wig. And I'd had a wig on, a cigarette butt in my mouth. Just because of Fred, I'd had that cigarette butt. And I'd be imitating my auntie and have a beer can in this hand and a cigarette butt, and all the kids would be laughing. And then they get real serious. I'd be like, uh-oh. It's a grown-up behind me, ain't it? And depending on who the grown-up was, if there was a cool grown-up, they would come in and laugh and be like, girl, take your auntie wig off. If it was a bold grown-up, well, I'm busted. And my auntie had her hair braided, and the braids was all over her head like a disgruntled weather vane. And I'm thinking, why you wear the wig if you gonna take it off? I guess she loved a wig. And it was a hard 70s wig. Y'all remember them wigs? And I would go back to her purse and I would try to fold it up, but it was like origami. It was so hard to get it to fold up, and I would get it as close as I could and tuck it in the purse and run off. I had a loving family, and they always had something going on. They would have a cookout, a barbecue, family reunion. Oh, baby, the infamous family reunion. And I could dance, still hustling, making money. They used to pay me to dance. Maybe that was primitive prostitution, I don't know, but you got a fat girl that could dance. That's an oxymoron, but I did it anyway. And I loved to dance. And it didn't matter what the surface was, cement, grass, sand, whatever, I would dance. And if I wasn't getting enough money, I would always end my dance routine with the splits. Pow! I was sure to get a quarter if I did the splits. Nah, don't look at me now. The laws of physics say that's not finna happen. Ain't gonna happen. But I remember the parties. And I remember the feelings. And I remember my family, and I remember the dances. I remember all of those things. And I remember growing up with my crew. Ronald, Bambi, Fred. I've been looking for Fred. Don't judge me, but I have. And his name was Fred Smith. It's only about 10,000 of them in the world. I'm down to 6,042 Fred Smiths. But I loved Fred. He was strong. He represented everything I needed to protect me. Fred would do chin-ups on the playground. I'd be like, that's Fred. Pull that cigarette out. It was Fred. And my crew, oh yeah, you know the weirder kids always grow up and be successful. We always do. Ronald is living out in California, working on major motion pictures. Bambi, well, sometimes your name predetermines what kind of profession That's Bambi. My friend Vonnie is traveling abroad, living all over the world, teaching children English. And Fred, yeah. Sometimes I'm gonna get through that list. But every now and then my mind goes back to that touch at 4 years old. And I ask myself 2 questions. How could such a good person who loved me touch me and make me feel so bad? Or how can such a bad person touch me and make me feel so good? Coco, ladies and gentlemen.